So good day, everyone. My name is Peter Olubayo. Today, we'll be looking at how to answer multiple choice questions. So the next slide will be tips about answering multiple choice questions. Then we'll go into practice section where we'll look at Cambridge IELTS 15 Test 1 and Passage 3. We'll look at that together and use it to practice all the tips you will see in my next slide. So basically, on how to answer multiple choice questions, your aim is to choose the most appropriate answer in relation to the content of the text. So this is what I mean. What really matters in that text you have before you is the question you have, is that question or the questions. So the questions matters a lot. It contains all the information you need. And then it can tell you where that information can be found in the passage or in the text. So every other thing, apart from the question you have before you, which you have to interpret clearly and correctly, as well as the only most appropriate answer in that option, nothing else really matters. So there will always be three other options which I consider as distractions. They may contain few elements to answering that question, but they are not the appropriate and most appropriate answer. All right. So now what you want to focus on is the question being asked, your understanding of your comprehension of that question, okay? And then going into the passage, locating where that information is in the passage and you answering it. And next is your ability to now, because the answers are going to be that same answer, that same thing you read in the text is going to be paraphrased. Okay, so your vocabulary and all that also come into place. If you have not gone through our last class, we talked about how your plan should be. That means you want to develop your reading skills, your vocabulary, and strategy. So today we are just basing this lecture on strategies on how to answer MCQs. Now, you will have to skim the passage as you would do for every IELTS passage. And then it is good practice for you to skim through the questions as well. This is because the questions, you have the questions, you can see them already. So it helps you to understand where exactly you need to focus on. So when you skim through the questions, you know the keywords in the questions as well. And when you go through the passage, you quickly note what you will be needing for the next question ahead of you. Okay? So I think the ability to comprehend the question cannot be overemphasized, because it's going, definitely the answer there will even be paraphrased. So that is where your vocabs come in. They are going to put in some element of synonyms and antonyms, and you need to understand that. Okay, so the fact that the keyword is in any of the answer doesn't mean that is it. You have to comprehend the question as well as those answers. Okay, then you have to match the keyword to the text. Definitely, for you to scan through the text, you have to note the keywords in the question. So as we'll be applying, don't worry, we'll be applying all these skills into the practice section we'll be having just now. So you have to match the keywords in the question to the passage. So after you have isolated where the paragraph or the section where that keyword is located, you want to read around it, you have found it already, and then you have to just choose. So at that point, your ability to paraphrase is also important. And then remember that the question always follows the same order as you contain it in the text. So if question number 1 is in paragraph 3, you don't have to waste your time looking for the answer to question number 2 in paragraph 2. That is a paragraph before the one where you find the previous answer. All right. And interestingly, that could even make you not to read through the whole passage in answering MCQs, because they would usually tell you where your answers, there will always be something to lead you to the answer. All right, you can screenshot the page if you want to, and then we'll be recording this for people too. So I'm going to move on to practice all these things, put them into practice for you on Cambridge IELTS 15, Test 1 and Passage 3. Bear with me, I'll just go to my PDF files, and please forgive me, it's not very clear. The question I have, passage I have is not that clear, but at least it will be good enough for us to see. Okay. Just going to make sure that you can see my screen. Okay. So I'm sure you can see my screen now. I'm just quickly going to take feedback regarding that, so I'm not talking to myself. So I need 1 or 2 people to tell me that you can see my screen, please.
Yes, we can see it, sir.
So you can see the PDF.
Yes, we can see it, sir.
Lovely.
Yes, I can see.
Thank you.
Yes, I can see.
I'm going to mute everybody again. Thank you so much for that. So I'm looking at Cambridge IELTS 15. This is test 1 and this is passage 3. So, and the passage is all about what is exploration. What is exploration? Okay, bear with me. All right. All right, so question 27 to 32 here is multiple choice question. And it says choose the correct letter A, B, C, or D, and you have to write the correct answer in your booklet. So 27 says, the writer refers to visitors to New York to illustrate the point that. So I'm going to, yes, annotate the main thing here, I suppose, is the New York. Okay, so the writer refers to visitors, okay, visitors to New York to illustrate the point that. So you agree with me that even if visitors can change to traveler, New York will always remain the same. So when you are skimming through the questions, you pay attention to words like this, the name of people, animal, place, or thing, and as well as dates. Those things, those information cannot change. They can't give New York another meaning, you know, it can be paraphrased. So now, and then what does the writer refer to? And what was he illustrating? That is the point here. What was the writer illustrating when he mentioned visitors to New York? What was the writer illustrating? So you now come here, quickly scan through the passage. I want to believe you skimmed through, so I'm not going to do that now. So now you are looking for the keyword that is contained here, and that is New York. So this is where you can find New York, all right? So that means you have to read through the sentence before New York, at least to have an understanding of what it has to say, okay? And if you read through the whole paragraph, that is beautiful. So for the sake of this lesson, I will just quickly skim through the whole paragraph here so you have an understanding of what they are saying. So we are all explorers. A desire to discover and then share that newfound knowledge is part of what makes us humans. Indeed, this has played an important part in our success as a species. Long before the first caveman slumped down beside the fire and grunted news that there were plenty of wild beasts over yonder, and our ancestors had learned the value of sending house cow to investigate the unknown. You can see it's just talking about exploration. So this questing nature, which is exploration of ours, undoubtedly helped our species spread around the globe. Just as it is nowadays, no doubt helps the last nomadic. Penang maintained their existence in the depleted forest of Borneo, and a visitor negotiates the subways of New York. So you can see everything I've read earlier on, this is where the information is. And what they have, so you need to interpret that question correctly. So what was the writer illustrating when he mentioned New York? Okay, when he mentioned visitors to New York. So the exploration nature of human being has helped to spread the species around the globe. Now, just as it is nowadays, no doubt helps the last nomadic Penang maintain their existence. So in the depleted forest of Borneo, and a visitor negotiate the subways of New York. So what is the answer? Exploration is an intrinsic element of being human. Most people are enthusiastic about exploring. Exploration can lead to surprising results. Most people find exploration daunting. So this is quite straightforward. Okay, so you have to, I said what you are looking for, what is most important to you is what you have information contained in the question, and then what they have got to say in the passage. Okay, so in the passage, you see that they said, and then that newfound knowledge that we find through exploration makes us human, talking about our intrinsic nature. Okay, and let's see. And that questing nature of ours undoubtedly helped our species spread around the globe. So if you look at what it's saying, maintaining our existence here, okay, you will find out that it is not most people, they never talked about, when he talked about these visitors negotiating the subways of New York, he's talking about these visitors is like, they are travelers, you know, they are just exploring things. This is the same attribute that is intrinsic to every one of us. We are all explorers. Never had anything to do with the fact that most people are enthusiastic about exploring. No. Never talk about exploration can lead to never talk about results. Okay? Never talk about most people find exploration daunting. Never talk about that. But at least we know that the fact that even visitors are going to New York is because of the human nature of exploring things and places. So leaving us with A as the answer. All right, so I'll quickly move on. Don't forget, I'm going to give us an avenue to ask questions. But that will be after I've reviewed all of them. So according to the second paragraph, you can see now they are pointing us to the second paragraph, which is this. So that means the answer is just here. You can see at times, MCQ, you don't have to read through the passage and have understanding of everything for MCQs, unlike matching heading and finding paragraph information. So what is the writer's view? So the writer's view about explorer, that is what matters to us now. Over the years, we've come to think of explorers as a peculiar breed. Now, people think, this is as good as saying that people think that explorers are a peculiar breed. But don't forget, what we are looking for is the writer's view. Very important. The writer's perception, what the writer thinks or thinks of explorers. Okay, so still talking about what people think, different from the rest of us, different from those of us who are merely well-traveled. even and perhaps there's a type of person more suited to seeking out the new, a type of caveman more inclined to risk, all those things. Now, I suppose he wants to introduce his own idea. That, however, doesn't take away the fact that we all have this inquiry instinct, okay? Even today, and that in all sorts of professions, whether artists, marine biologists, blah, 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 they are being tested, the unknown are being tested each day. I'm only taking my time. So, because this is it's a lecture now, but in your examination, once you find the most important, the key thing, the key words here is the writer's view, okay? Not what people think. So if you mistakenly think this is what the writer thinks, you will definitely miss the answer to this question, okay? All right, so, and that was introduced by this, however, a contrasting word, leading to contrasting statement from what other things. So what does he think of explorers? We are all explorers, that's what he thinks, okay? That, however, doesn't take away the fact that we all have this inquiry history, so they are not special. Now let's look at the options. Their discoveries are brought both, no, they are no, they act on, they act on an urge that is common, okay, to everyone. They tend to be more attracted to certain professions. He mentioned professions, but he never said they are attracted to just a particular profession. He said even today, in all, you can see distractions, all sorts of professions. So what matters is the question, what your understanding of the question, and you finding that information, your interpretation of the answers, your vocabulary, and your strategy, saving time. So the answer to 28 still remains C. Okay? You can see, but it was never written there that it is common to everyone in the passage, but they talk about an urge. What motivates people? We all have this, and that is the instinct. Okay? So let's take 29. Let's take question 29. I may have to clear all these. Let's take 29. Note down your question, please. So now, don't forget another important is that the MCQs are always in order. The questions are in order. So I don't have anything to do with anything before this again now, okay? Now, the writer refers to a description of Egdin heat, okay? So the description of Egdin heat to suggest that, now, definitely I'm looking for the name of a place that is Egdin heat. So the writer refers to a description of Egdin heat to suggest that. So it suggests that what? What did he suggest? So Thomas Hardy, don't forget that. Okay, so he's talking about Hardy in all the options. So beautiful. So Thomas Hardy set some of his novels in Egdin heat. That alone might be enough to answer the question, but let's move on. A fictional area, so it's definitely a fictional area of uncultivated land, and use the landscape to suggest the desires and fears of his character. So he used, Egdin does not exist. It's a fictional area of uncultivated land, and he used the description, can you see now, of that uncultivated land, use the landscape, that is the description here, okay, to suggest, you can see, very beautiful, to suggest the desires and fears of his characters. I don't need to read any longer. The desires, so he used that, the writer refers to a description of Egdin heat to suggest that the desires and fears, he used it to talk about the desire and fears of his characters. Okay? He's delving into matters we all recognize because they are common to humanity. This is surely an art of exploration and into a world as remote. Now, if you read on, okay, let's see if we have found the answer already. 29. So it says, Adi was writing about his own experience of exploration. Adi was mistaken about the nature of exploration. Adi's aim was to investigate people's emotional stress. You can see he talked about fears, desires, and fears. So, which is not only fear, it is desires. These are emotions. Now, please note that it wasn't talking about his own fears and desires. They were of his characters, other people. So, investigate people's emotional states. Okay, Addison was to show attraction. Oh, you can see already. So no need of reading forward. Heading hit has shown us this is where it is, and we find the suggestion and the description here. All right, beautiful. So that takes us to the next question. I will have to clear all my drawings, then move on. Okay. All right, so we have 30. So we have less than 10 minutes to finish now. So in the fourth paragraph, you can see they're even telling us where to look out for. Okay. So in the fourth paragraph, the writer refers to a golden age. So this is the fourth, this is the fourth paragraph. Okay, and I'm looking for golden age. Okay, but if you look at what is it trying to say, what is it trying to suggest? So I found golden age. In this book about the exploration of the Earth's surface, I have confined myself to those whose travels were real and who also aimed at more than personal discovery. But that still left me with another problem. Okay, that's a problem. The word explorer has become associated with a past era. We think back to a golden age. Okay, we think back to this age as if these are the suggestions. Okay, as if, so the golden age suggests that exploration peaked in the 19th century. It also suggests that the process of discovery is now on decline. Okay, so it suggests, so golden age suggests that probably all the exploration has happened in the past, in the golden age. Now, you see another contrasting word there, though now he's going to talk about something different from what he has mentioned. So this might not have to do with golden age. I already found everything about golden age as it is. Anything after this though is just telling me more, giving me more information. So you can read through that. So now in the fourth paragraph, he referred to golden age as well. The amount of useful information produced by exploration has decreased. Now, it talked about as if exploration peaked and it has been on decline since then. Okay, that's what that golden age he was referring to. Fewer people are interested in exploring than in the 19th century. Recent developments have made exploration less exciting. We are wrong to think that exploration is no longer necessary. So this is quite, this is dicey. You can see most of the answers, the information at least contains some elements in the passage. Okay, so we think back to a golden age as if exploration peaked that time, as if discovery is now on. Though the truth is that we name there is still more to be discovered. Okay, and that's including, okay, so I think the one that is most appropriate for this one is not, this one is very close, where people are interested in exploring that. It never particularly talked about that, but we are wrong to think that exploration is no longer necessary because we still have a lot to discover. Okay, I'll move on. I'll still take your questions, okay? In 31, in the 6th paragraph, I suppose this is 4th paragraph. So I'll move on to the next page. The next page is quite blur. I'll go to this place. Is that where I am? Okay, let's see. It's quite blur, but we'll manage it as it is. So this is the 5th and this is the 6th. Okay, so this is the 6th paragraph. It has led us to this place, leaving out this one. So we need that 5th paragraph as another question type. So in the 6th paragraph, when discussing the definition of exploration, the writer argues that, so what is his argument? Each definition is slightly different and tends to reflect the field of endeavor of each pioneer. It was the same whoever I asked. The prominent historian would say exploration was a thing of the past. The cutting-edge scientist would say it was of the present, and so on. So if you can see their arguments there, they each set their own particular criteria. The common factor approach being that they all had, unlike many of us, is simply enjoy travel or discovering anything, both a very definite objective from the onset and also a desire to record their findings. So the 6th paragraph, when discussing the definition of exploration, the writer argues that people tend to relate exploration to their own professional interest. Oh, that's quite straightforward. So it says, when we talk about definition, okay, definition, that's what we are leading. So each definition is slightly different depending on the field of endeavor. Okay, we can see that information. Certain people are likely to misunderstand the nature of exploration. No. No. The general accepted definition has changed over time. It never mentioned time. Historians and scientists have more valid definition than the general population or something there. So we all know that 31 still remains the A still remains the answer. Quite straightforward as well. Now, in the last paragraph, you can see MCQ, they are trying to lead us to where the answers are. Not confusing, but if you note that they have been in order, there was no answer you find in, let's say, paragraph 2, and you have to go back to paragraph above it. You understand what I mean? Okay. All right. We've answered 31. In 32, in the last paragraph, the writer explains that he is interested in, now if you look at that, all this article, he's been talking about what exploration is. He started and said, let's look at what people have said. Up until now, the last paragraph, you can see they pointed us to it again. The last paragraph, he explained that he is now his own interest. So, and he started by declaring his own bias. I'll best declare my own bias as a writer. I'm interested in the exploration of ideas. So what is he interested in? Very straightforward. Okay, exploration of ideas. So let's see if we can even answer that straight away. How someone's personality is reflected in their choice of places to visit, the ability to cast new light on places that may be familiar, how travel writing has evolved to change, blah, blah, blah. The feelings that writer, now we need to, so I'm interested in exploration of ideas. So I've done a great many expeditions and each one was unique. I've lived for months alone with isolated groups of people all around the world, even to uncontacted tribes. But none of these things is the slightest interest to anyone unless through my books. I found a new slant, explored a new idea. Why? Because the world has moved on. The time has long passed for the great continental voyages. Another walk to the poles, another crossing of the empty quarters, blah, blah, blah. We know the land surface, aside from the deep and the blah, blah, blah. Now, however, this is to disregard the role of human mind as being, so we want to explain, so all these things they are just going to distract us. So He said, however, this is to disregard the role the human mind has in conveying remote places. And this is what interests me, how a fresh interpretation, even of a well-traveled route, can give its reader new insight, leading us to how some personality know, how the human ability to cast new light on places, wow, that may be familiar. Okay, leading us to this. So let's say how travel writing has evolved to make the feelings that writers develop about the place they explore. So leaving us with option B as the answer. All right, I'm going to allow us to go there. Bear with me, please.